This is Brian Pecor, class of 2005.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Today's conversation with Brian is brought to us in part through the ongoing support of 2008 graduate Matt Cox and his company Saucetown Properties. If you or anyone you know have a house you want to sell but don't feel like dealing with the hassle of doing repairs or hiring a realtor, go to saucetownproperties.net to get a fair cash offer today. And today we are joined by 2005 Saxon graduate Brian Pecor. Brian currently serves as the Associate Vice President of Development for the Duke University Healthcare System in Durham, North Carolina. In his years since graduating South, Brian graduated from Oregon State University with bachelor's in sociology and Purdue University with his MBA. While at Oregon State, Brian worked in the athletic department and was part of 3 national championships with the baseball team and 1 Final Four with the women's basketball team, all in various roles. He's lived and worked in 5 different states across the country and has played a significant role in raising over $100 million in research and healthcare delivery. Brian, welcome to your time in the Saxon Spotlight, man. We are so grateful to be able to share a bit of your story. How's the weather out in Durham today? Did you get hit with that wild Arctic front?
Yeah, thankfully we got the edge of it. So we got ice, snow. When I moved to the South, I moved for warmth. I was not expecting colds. We're supposed to get another one this weekend, but it's cold
Yeah, and how long have you been out at Duke?
for about 9 months. I've had a pretty fun journey. I went to Oregon State and then graduated South, went directly to Oregon State, graduated from Oregon State 2009. Stayed locally, worked for a nonprofit that worked with middle school and high school students, and then started working at Oregon State in a fundraising role. Got to work with the athletic department and College of Forestry and liberal arts, and did a lot of different things. About 2018, I was like, I need something bigger. I've been in Oregon my whole life. I just want to experience something different and bigger and some sun. And so I went to San Diego and worked at UC San Diego in their engineering school and loved it. Loved my life in San Diego, but got recruited out to UT Austin. Lived in Austin for 2 years, which was just a blast. Austin is so much fun. And then had an opportunity to go to Charleston, South Carolina, and work there at a hospital system, so outside of academics and academic medicine for a 4-hospital healthcare system. And then was recruited up here to Duke about 9 months ago. So I left Oregon in 2018 and I've lived in, 4 or 5 states since then and done a lot of different things. But living in different parts of the country has been so fun, experiencing different cultures and people and seeing how different people do things. And I will say, getting further and further away from Oregon, it makes me appreciate being an Oregonian and growing up in Oregon and my time at South and in Salem for sure. But it's interesting. People think like, oh, Oregonians, you all are just they just think we're different.
It's true. I've heard that as well. Talk about your day-to-day. What's that like at Duke and this new role?
I oversee all fundraising and development work for the health system. So we have 4 hospitals, soon to be 5, 31,000 employees. So we are a part of Duke. We are wholly owned by Duke, but our specific hospital system. So academic medicine is really implementing the basic work and the basic research that is done on campus into healthcare and those deliverables. So those late stage clinical research and things like that. And we have 4 pillars of fundraising: research, academics, and scholarships for medical students and trainees, and clinical work and community work. So what are we doing for those in our community who can't afford healthcare? How do we ensure that they can get the same level of care that everyone deserves, but believing as I do that healthcare is a human right? How can we help people get that regardless of what those barriers are? Oftentimes it's limited resources that would take to get somebody into healthcare. So it's travel. They can't afford gas to get to their appointment. So we'll give you gas money, things like that. So I really focus on that clinical excellence and that community-based work. So you should be able to receive the top level of care from the best physicians and the best equipment. So we, our group is over the course of 10 years. So through the end of the decade, we're on a mission to raise about $2.4 billion for all of Duke Health, all incorporating in that. So we've got I've got about $1 billion to go. So it's a lot of work to be done. So we're trying to fill out that mission.
Yeah, it's ambitious. Even just hearing you describe it, how does that fit within that 2018 version of yourself when you're like, I want something bigger, I want something grander? How do you see that aligning?
Yeah. So gosh, that's a good question. I will say when I think I graduated back in the time where they made it sound like listen, go to college, you get a job, and you walked off the stage, they would shake your hand and hand you a job. And I graduated 2009, and so that was the middle of the recession, and so it wasn't as linear as that. Even when I went into college, didn't know what I wanted to do. When I graduated college, I had this idea, but I wasn't really sure how it was going to work. But one of my core like philosophies in life is take big swings. Like, why not? That's how I approach my job is especially with asking people for money. Like most of my job is getting told no. I get told no a lot. And when I'm reaching out to people, but every no is something on the way to a yes, is on the way to success. And so when I left Oregon in 2018, I had no idea that I'd be living in North Carolina, working at Duke as an associate vice president of development. Like I had no idea. Have been very fortunate to approach every single opportunity with why not? Like why not? Why can't I do that? I think a part of that is probably some naivety on like my own ability, but and maybe a little overinflated sense of self, but certainly um I think that that hasn't hurt, and really being able to just take those big swings and say, why not? And if it fails, that's try something different. I think really benefited from my upbringing. And I think that's part of my South story as well. I think, I'm very cognizant and aware that it doesn't come without some sort of safety net there, right? Where I'm not on my own. I have a family that loves me. I have my mom and my stepdad Robin that really loved me, and a brother and friends and family. And so ultimately, if I needed something, I could pick up the phone and call somebody. And so there's a safety there to where I moved to Austin sight unseen, Charleston sight unseen, Durham sight unseen for these opportunities. I'm like, worst case scenario, I hate it, and I go back to Oregon, or I go wherever and I do something different. Like that'll be fine. But it's because I know that there's that safety net there. And so I think that that comes from my mom for sure, always providing me that. But as I was reflecting on my time at South, I was like, what is the one feeling that I think back on South? And it was that sense of safe and safety and support. And when I was a sophomore, my dad passed away. And that's a really that's a hard time. That's a hard thing for a 15, 16-year-old to be going through. But the people at South, not only the administrators and the coaches and the teachers and my friends and their families, and like there was a community that really surrounded me and gave me that sense of like, you're going to get through this. It'll be okay. We know it sucks. And gave me the freedom and space to uh go through emotions and have bad days and make not great decisions all the time, but gave me the space to come back and like that space to really go through that grieving process and figure out who I was and always feel that supported. And that wasn't none of those things that happened at that time or through South or through any of those experiences were defining for who I was. Like that doesn't have to define you. You don't always have to be the kid whose dad died when you were 16. Like that's a part of your story, and that will be a big part of your story, but eventually that is not defining who you are. You get to set who you are, and will help you do that. And that's, I think, what gives me the freedom to continue to take those big swings is I always felt like there was that safety net to do that, to take that big swings and take chances, because what's the worst case scenario? They say no. I mean, I told no a lot, so it's not, not that bad.
I have to imagine, though, I work with students all the time who have lost someone close to them, and certainly every story is different. Losing a dad, losing someone that close to you at such a pivotal developmental time in your
Yeah.
life, I would have assumed that that gives you a life perspective that's like, at any moment, this could come crashing down. At any moment, I could lose everything. And yet for you, though that may be there's maybe elements that are true, you're saying, "No, I've gotta take the risk. I've gotta step forward." How have you found yourself navigating those 2 kind of competing narratives that happen after grief so eloquently, so well?
Yeah. That's a good question. I think there is that sense of, yeah, this could all end tomorrow. There's no promises. But at the six, so there's like a fear in that. And that can be paralyzing, and that can cause like anxiety. And those are things I've gone through, certainly. But there's also can be a freedom in that of, well, if it's going to end tomorrow, then why not? Like, why not take that chance? But also, I think one thing I went through that I think really, really helped was I never felt like, yes, my dad died and no one certainly could ever replace him, and no one ever tried. But if you look at the lineup of people since then, men and women who have stepped into my life in that role when I needed it, at different seasons of life. Coach Rick Lacey, Coach Defoe, Guido Calderazzo, Coach Haugen, Coach Haverkoff, like so many people, Brian Armstrong, Chris Herb, who was in my life, still
Yep.
we're super close to this day.
Yep.
Bill August, Joey August dad, Mel Wade, Mike Wade's dad. I think there's this, everyone when I needed it stepped up and gave me that fatherly figure when I needed it and when I needed it at that space. And then even friends. I mean, I'm Joey and Sarah August are still two of my best friends to this day and have stepped in at different times to be that in my life, even as a peer, have stepped in at different times in my life. It's funny, I called when I moved here, I bought a house here and every time I make a big purchase, I'm always like, oh, this is a bad choice. And so I need to call people and talk me down off the ledge of like, it's okay, you're fine. And so I called, in addition to my mom, and my mom is always so supportive. She's like, no, do it. You're fine. I'm like, okay, like I should get some outside, someone who doesn't automatically think I'm,
Yes.
super great. I should
Yes.
come and get their perspective. And so I called Joey and I called Chase Berkey, who are still super great friends. And that's something that I would call like a dad in a normal situation. So all these people that I've stepped in and, I think I've been very fortunate to always, that really taught me to always seek that mentorship and that person in my life that could speak into that role when I needed it. So when I was in South and the teachers and the coaches and the administrators and my peers there and the families to have those people in college and my early career. And even today, I'm incredibly fortunate to have worked with my current boss now for about 6 years and across multiple institutions. And she is an incredible mentor and a friend. And she does a lot of those things where I'm like, normally maybe I would call a dad for this, but she's stepped into that role. And so continuing to look for people that are wanting to make that investment at different seasons has been something that I have found to be really, really, really important because that need for that fatherly figure, that need never goes away. So it's how can you find other people? They're not going to fill it. One person can't fill that whole role, but collectively you have dozens of people in your life, hopefully, that at different seasons are going to fill different parts of it based off of what you need. And I've been incredibly lucky in my life to have people step into that void and be there for the long term. A lot of them have just been there for seasons, but a lot of those people have been there for 20 plus years, continually serving in that role and can really speak into, no, that's your fear talking. That's something that Joey and Sarah are really good at. Cause I've been friends with Joey since we were sixth grade and Sarah's been in, they've been dating since freshman year of high school. So I've been with, known her that long that she can be like, that's your fear talking. That's anxiety talking. Like, you're going to be fine. Go do this. And so people really seeking out those people who don't let you fall into that model of like, oh, this is going to collapse tomorrow, but you just got to find those people that can step into your life. And again, that safety and that support, I think has been a theme throughout my life.
You're so generous in giving credit to those who have had that impact on you. And yet it's Joey who's told me you should interview Brian. And he's a Saxon grad who's worth, your time to spotlight. So I'm curious for you, your definition of what makes you worthy of the spotlight, worthy of sharing your story.
Man, I think what makes me worthy is kind of what we just talked about. Like I'm a product of a whole host of people that have gotten me to this point. I was growing up, my mom she had that book. Somebody probably gave it to her because that was probably a problem at some point. And they were like, here's a book called It Takes a Village. Like get some other people to help you. This kid's in trouble. So, but I just remember seeing that, like that it takes a village. And it truly does. Like I think a big reason that I would be noteworthy is the people who have surrounded me and propelled me along the way and given me the confidence and given me the tools to be able to do the things I've done in my career and have the structure and the ambition and made me feel like there wasn't anything I couldn't do. And then why wouldn't you go to Duke? Of course you can go to Duke and be, the first associate vice president of the healthcare system and build out a structure. And I'll never forget my first day. This was in Charleston. I was an executive director at that point. People were asking me to make the first time somebody asked me to make like a really significant, like multi-million-dollar decision on something. I was like, okay, but who else needs to sign off on this? I'm like, just you're the executive director. I was like, okay, like bold choice, but sure. But because of the people who have supported me and propelled me along the way and give me the confidence to pursue, just to have that dogged persistence of, I'm going to be the best at this and we're going to rethink things and we're going to try new things different. But certainly as a Saxon alum, I think I would hope that all those people that spoke into my life deserve a ton of credit, but certainly without that base of supporting those people from South specifically in that season that supported me, I certainly would not be who I am today. And then I certainly hope I got the chance to say thank you, and I hope I was mature enough at the time. But like, man, I'd love to do that. It's like it's important to me that Coach Lacey and
Mm-hmm.
Coach Defoe and all those people that were important parts of my life know that I am who I am because of who they are. Just as it's important to me for my mom to know that, and Robin and my brother, aunts and uncles and grandparents and et cetera. Like those people need to know because that's an investment. We make investments a lot. We all have finite time, talent, treasure, and you make investments and choices in that. And so I'm hopeful that those people that invested in my life, recognize that I'm the fruit of their investment in me. And so I'm just incredibly appreciative. And, I want to continue to carry that forward. And that's one of the reasons I love my job so much is I'm helping people who have been incredibly successful in life and gotten a lot of money have that impact on others and return that investment to something that they care about, which is healthcare. And I'm able to kind of sit in the middle of that business strategy of like, we need to do this as a healthcare system. The only way we can do it, or the most sustainable or immediate way we can do it, is through philanthropy. Who are those philanthropists that want to match with that? So I get to sit at the middle of that intersection of impact. And so back to what we were just talking about is that's that intersection when you're investing in people is, will there be that impact? Will the impact that I'm having pay off and make a difference? And it doesn't always, but when it does, I would hope that the people that I'm investing in, let me know someday or the people that I invested in back in the day would let me know that, hey, I made it and, I'm okay. So I just want, like, that's a motivation for me doing this when you reached out. This is an opportunity for me to reach back out and say, I'm doing well, thanks to those.
Yeah. Well, it's a perfect segue to our big three questions. And as always, these are brought to us by the Saxon Success Fund. Saxon Success Fund, for anyone listening who has not heard the blurb yet, we operate a nonprofit here at South that raises money and invests in our school and in our students through capital improvement projects and college scholarships, all with the goal and purpose to transform South Salem High School from one of the best schools in the state of Oregon to one of the best schools in our nation, thanks to the legacies that people like you, Brian, have left. But if anyone wants to get involved in the Saxon Success Fund, they can go to saxonsuccessfund.org for more information. So question one, we've hit on it, but I'd love to hear any more thoughts that you have, knowing where you are today, Brian, knowing all that you've come through. Answer that, but we haven't heard much about your time at Oregon State and
Yeah.
involved specifically in Oregon State athletics. Who helped you get into that, or how did you get into that? And then again, just add anyone else that you haven't named already that would be helpful to point out and saying like, this is why I am who I am.
Yeah. So I've named a bunch of people at South already, but certainly like Kathy August, Rick Lacey, Defoe, Armstrong. Laura Tiffin was a huge advocate and is just an incredible human being. And someone that is just absolutely fantastic. Great friends, Joey and Sari, who I mentioned, Chase, Mike Wade was, he and his family were fantastic. All the Wade brothers were great. Kevin's son and his family take me camping. They were, fun. I lived with Kevin for a little bit in college, which was fun. People like Hannah Rao and Katie Barber and Sarah Edmonds and that whole crew was just so, when you talk about kindness, I think they led with kindness often in life. And then really it was Coach Lacey that helped me get not into Oregon State, but get into working in the athletic department at Oregon State. He was really the one that was like, this is something you could do. It was like fun, and they give you money for it. And bit of a scholarship to do that, made a lot of inroads, a lot of connections. And I think, but one of the things he did that was best for me was like, here it is, you got to go do it. Like, you got to want it. So you got to go chase it. I'm going to give you the number. I'll give you like the contacts, but I'm not going to do it for you. If this is something you really want, you got to go do it on your own. And so he was fully supportive. And I called down to the football program and I said, hey, I just something I'd love to do. Actually, interestingly, I called, I think I called a couple different schools first, and the reason I ended up at Oregon State was I called University of Oregon and Oregon State in University of Oregon in true University of Oregon fashion was like, yeah, I mean, come here if you want. We don't really care. Like, there's lots of people that want to come here. It's fine. Do whatever you want. Like, that's fine. Whatever. And when I called Oregon State, they were like, oh my gosh, we would love for you to come here. And so they made me feel like super wanted. I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be wanted.
Yeah.
And so I went to Oregon State. And then so I was set up to work for the football team, which I ended up doing that for 2 years. But I don't know if you've ever, I mean, you played football, and football in college is a business. Like, it is a grind. And that was like a full-time job on top of being a student, even as a student manager. And it was a lot. And I was at going into freshman year, out at a summer game that Joey was playing, where he was still getting recruited by like Stanford and a couple different schools, but Oregon State was there. Pat Casey was there. And so I was sitting with Bill August, and I said, isn't that that's Pat Casey, the head coach of Oregon State, right? And he said, yeah. And I was like, well, I'm going to go talk to him and see if he'll give me a job. And like, that might've been like my first big swing. Like, what's the worst he's going to say? No, get out of here. So I walked up and I said, hey, coach, my name is Brian Pecor, and I'm going to be a student manager for the football team, but I'd love to come out and help you at Oregon State as well. And he was like, oh, because I don't know if we've really ever had that before, but sure, like, look me up when you get to school in the fall or whenever that was. And so I did, and I ended up working for the baseball team all 4 years, went to Omaha my first 2 years. And then I kind of did the same thing when I got my job at Oregon State. I had a friend in town and a mentor in town. His name was Scott Sanders. And I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I was working for a nonprofit, and I just don't know. I could not tell you what I want to do with my life. He said, well, why don't you like call up I'll give you some numbers and emails of people at Oregon State and go see what you can do. And so I kind of name dropped to get my foot in the door at the foundation and get a coffee meeting with the CEO at the time, Mike Goodwin. And I told, like, my foot in the door was not only Scott Sanders, but also that I worked in the athletic department and, Coach Casey. I went to Coach Casey, and he said, what do you think Coach Casey would say if I called and asked him about you? And I said, he would say I'm a hard worker. He would say I'm, blah, blah, blah. And he said, okay, if you get Coach Casey to reach out to me and vouch for you, I'll let you apply for a job and we'll give you a job. And so I did, and he called, Mike Goodwin. He said, you're crazy if you don't hire Brad. And so Mike gave me an opportunity, and I started at Oregon State in the foundation. I got connected with a guy at the foundation named Tom McLennan, who is still one of my absolute heroes to this day and a mentor. And he gave me an opportunity to really learn under him, and then started my first frontline fundraising job was in athletics. And that's when I got connected with Coach Casey, and got to fundraise for him, and then got connected with Coach Ruick. And so my two groups that I fundraised for primarily were, everybody does football, but I really own all of baseball and all of women's basketball. I mean, just unbelievable times to learn under unbelievable leaders about coaching and growth and who you are as a human and the importance of what we do as a vehicle for creating good in the world. And so that I got to learn from them that, yeah, I have my day-to-day job and I do it well. But one of the reasons I think I'm good at it is because that's not the ultimate part of what I do. And if there's not that kind of core, like, doing something good for humanity within it, then I don't know I would not be able to do that, because there's got to be, again, that level of impacts. I think in a way that I approach my job in a way that you would, like, an athlete approaches theirs. Like, we're going to get ready, we're going to train, we're going to practice. Like, this is everything we do is for that game day. That game day is sitting down in front of a donor. And if I'm going to ask this person for $20 million, I better come ready. Like, it better be on point. I better know all the answers to those questions. I better know what the impact is. I better know what the budget is. I better know what the gaps are. I got to know that when I'm taking the CEO or this doctor or this department chair with me, they're fully prepped. Like, you have to come ready to do what you need to do. And when you are in a position to win, don't give that up. Like, pursue it until it is done. And I certainly learned that from both Coach Casey and Coach Ruick. And so was incredibly fortunate my entire career and time at Oregon State to really benefit and learn from some really just wonderful coaches and humans. And
Knowing all the impact that I'm wondering if you can like synthesize some of that advice to maybe the former version of yourself. If you had known all that you learned, what advice would you give yourself, or thinking about the students that are outside in our hallways right now? What advice would you give the high school version of yourself?
I just acutely remember things in high school feeling like just everything felt like an existential crisis. Everything was just such a big deal. Like, oh my God, that I asked that girl out and she said no, like my life is over. Oh my God, like so and so and I are in a fight. Or, oh, like everything was just the biggest. Like emotions are so big and so high. Like you're fine. Like it's not that big of a deal. Life will be okay. This is one chapter of a hopefully very long life. Don't let that one thing define you, good or bad, right? There's, I think we all know people who the defining moments of their life was the success that they had in high school. Do not let high school define you. It is one chapter, and you will get many chapters to define who you are moving forward. You get to do it in college, you get to do it when you graduate. And every time you move to a new city, like I get to redefine myself every time I go somewhere new. Every day. So it's not that big of a deal. You will be fine. And then the second piece of advice I would give graduating Brian would be find something. And I'm lucky that I ended up in this, but I think I would have found it earlier. Is that find something that you are passionate about in life. And it doesn't have to, it can be your job, it can be your career. That's absolutely fantastic. Am incredibly fortunate that that is my career, that I'm just excited about doing that every single day. And that is how I am wired. That does not have to be that way for everybody. My brother is not wired that way. Matt does not, like, he is a work to live, not a live to work. I'm a live to work. Matt, similar to me, but he's found things he's passionate about. He is passionate about his family. He's an unbelievable dad. He's an unbelievable husband. He's an unbelievable friend, and he has hobbies. He is passionate about his life. Make a life that you are passionate about, because life is hard. Life can suck. Life can kick you. And on those days when life is really hard, you need to have that thing that you are passionate about to keep you grounded and keep you moving forward day after day, where it feels like, what's the point on doing this? On those days where you're having anxiety, maybe mental health problems, whatever that is, having that thing, that rounding thing that you're passionate about, in addition to your family, firmly believe will help. So find that thing. I wish I had found that thing a little bit earlier in life.
Question 3, if you could transform South Salem High School or version of public education that you know, what would you add? What would you shift? What would you adjust?
Yeah. To be honest, I have not been to South in a long time. I missed out on the opportunity to go back this past summer for the reunion. I had just moved to Durham and couldn't make it work. But so this is more of a global statement. I am incredibly thankful that I did not go to high school at a time with social media and camera phones.
Yes.
The worst I had was like MySpace and like AOL Instant Messenger, right? I
Yes.
think that was and that caused enough drama as it
I
was,
know. I
let
know.
alone phones. I can't imagine. So I think I am interested to see how continuing rules and regulations and laws about like phones and social media, for not only phones in school, but social media for kids under a certain age. Social media, that connection can give people from maybe marginalized communities bigger communities and help them in a lot of ways. So I think there's pros and cons. I think there's a thoughtful way to do it. I'm not the thought leader in that space, but I think that's something, is really getting arms around the damage that social media, I think, is doing, is something that's important. The second thing that I'm a firm believer is, and I've seen this in some states that I've lived in, specifically when I was in Texas, but I think public schools are good. I'm a fan of public schools. I'm a product of public schools. I certainly would plan, when I have kids, would send my kids to public school. I think you get a unique experience at public school. So I think the move towards vouchers is not great, because you're taking money out of public schools. Like, strengthen our public schools. It's kind of ironic. I work in fundraising, but I'm a proponent of like a more progressive tax system. I'm a classic Oregon liberal. So I'm, a proponent of those types of things. So I think we need to make more investments in the public schools and not pull money out into vouchers and other systems.
As a public school employee, we certainly can appreciate that message. Absolutely. Yeah. Rapid fire questions for
Yeah.
you, Brian, as we close today. These ones are brought to us by Dr. Corey Bickler at Bickler Dentistry. Always want to give him a shout out in the support he's given. So today's questions: a favorite TV show or movie when you're not working, what are you doing?
Yeah, I've gotten really into recently. I think like other people have a terrible attention span these days. I've gotten really into like YouTube and podcasts. And so I watched there's some podcasts I really like. There's, there's home improvement podcasts that I'll watch, but I really like TV shows. I've been watching The Pit is really good. I think that's super interesting. But I also appreciate just like a good Parks and Rec or something like that to unwind at the end of the day. But I will, Ariana and I are watching Poldark, which is like a British period, which is kind of embarrassing to say, but like, man, that show, there more happens in one episode of that show than happens in like seasons of others. It is wild.
That is a wild show for sure. What's the class that you took in high school or college that you feel like you've used most in your profession?
College writing with Mr. Barry for sure. There are, I think that was one of my favorite classes, not only because two reasons. Mr. Barry, is he still teaching us off?
He's retired, but he's come back. Now he's
Okay.
Dr. Barry. He got his PhD.
Dr. Barry, that's right.
Yes.
That's embarrassing. I should know that. Dr.
No,
Barry.
all good, all good.
Absolutely fantastic. He is an incredible teacher, an incredible human being because he's so passionate about the work that he does. And it ended up being incredibly helpful. It also was super fun because it's really like one of the only classes where there's only offered like one or two times, like there's like one or two sessions. And so it's you and like everybody you know in this one class. And it just doesn't happen all that often. So I just have very vivid memories of one of my favorite Dr. Barry stories is we're sitting in class and he's doing roll call. Every day does roll call, and he pronounced my name, knows how to pronounce my name, but is pronouncing it. Brian is like, Pecor, Brian Pecor. And Kevin goes, it's Pecor. And he goes, no, it's French. And turns out it's true. It's French. He was right.
He knew it.
He knew it. So college writing was one that I used frequently. I used the vocab. I used the things I learned. And that's just, I think as a senior, that was I didn't take a lot of like real classes my senior year, but that was definitely one that I took, and a special memory for sure.
Yeah, I had a similar experience with my college writing class over at Sprague. I'll say that very quickly, but yes, that was great. Favorite spot to eat when you are ever in Salem?
Is Venti's still around?
So they closed the one on South Commercial, but there's a downtown
the
one.
OG one downtown?
Yep,
okay,
that
that's the
one's
best
still
one
there.
anyway. So yeah,
Yeah.
Venti's OG downtown. There
That's
was
great.
a season of life where it was between junior and senior year of college, and Joey had hurt his back. And so took the summer off, and we were lifting, and I was working during the summer, but I had a very flexible schedule, and we were lifting. We'd go to South every day and we'd lift with Rick Lacey, and then we'd go to Venti's for lunch afterwards. And that was just a very special season of life. And that's also one person I did mention before, but who had got something similar that I did was John Ollinger, who was, I think it was his mom passed away when he was in high school. So her connected us, and I'll never forget the first time we met. We went to Venti's. It was the first time I'd ever been there because he was at Willamette as a student. And he introduced me to it, and I fell in love with it. And then he was just such a kind human, is doing super cool things. And now I know you talked to him on this podcast.
Yeah. Yep.
I think that's another thing, is people making connections with other people who have gone through similar things. Venti's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great spot, and shout out to John Ollinger too.
Yeah.
Any other shout outs you want to give?
I think there are people that I graduate high school with that are doing super, super cool things that I want to shout out, that I think if you are ever looking for future.
Yes, please.
Guests,
that's my next question. So loop them both in.
Yeah.
Who else should we interview?
Chase Berkey is still one of my really close friends, but Chase is a incredible thought leader in a couple of different places. He's a really strong thought leader in the changes that are happening and need to happen in the CPA space and public accounting. And he has created a nationwide boutique accounting firm that operates where they let people, I'm going to butcher what it is, but gives CPAs power to control their own lives under the umbrella of his company, and is doing really incredible things, is speaking on a lot. And then also is a very huge proponent of mental health and the grind that CPAs can go under, and how that needs to be more of a focus of CPAs is mental health. And so we'll speak to that. And anxiety is incredibly gifted. Libby Batlin, I don't know if you've talked to her. She's doing super cool things, and she was a U of O for quite a while in like government affairs, government relations, but is now as advocacy work, I want to say, in healthcare out of Portland. David Mazerhart is a neurosurgeon at OHSU, which is super cool. And then one of the questions that I was juggling with earlier was, one of the other answers to what's one thing you wish you would have told yourself in high school was have a broader friend group and be friends with people with much different interests than you. because there are people that I went to high school with that are doing unbelievable things that I wish I knew more so I could follow much more closely. Like Jackie McConnell, who went to school, went to NYU, and is now like doing ballet, and I think she's in California, like just doing super cool things. So if you were like, who are 4 people that would be fun to hear about their journey post South and how did they end up to where they are now? Those are 4 that I would
Those are great.
recommend.
Yeah, those are really great. Yeah, a few of them have been mentioned, and yeah,
Yep.
I just need to lock in, just
Yeah.
like we
Yeah.
did with you. Yeah, Brian, one more thing you had mentioned and indicated just that mental health piece and how important it is. I know we've talked, it's woven throughout your story and your journey. Anything else you want to share related to mental health?
Yeah. I'll say don't go through it alone. There's no prizes in life for the amount of suffering that you can do on your own, and seek the same way you seek mentors, seek people in your life who know you and see you and will speak into your life and will speak truth when you're maybe feeling down about yourself or feeling like you can't do something or feeling like it's not worth it or whatever. Like it is, it gets better, and it's not, yeah, it's take it seriously. I think that's something that I've been really encouraged by younger generations is the importance that they've placed on mental health. And so continue to take mental health incredibly seriously. Continue to check in on your friends, check in on yourself. Go to counseling. Counseling's great. Have gone to counseling. I've go to counseling. Like it's like it's like going to the gym. It's like an oil change. Like there's no checkups are good. Do it. So yeah, mental health is super important, and continue to seek people in your life that will speak into that. And if you're in situations where people aren't speaking into your life in a positive way, like dump it, like get out of it, get rid of it, and move on to the next thing. Recreate yourself as often as you want. Take big swings, but make sure that you're taking care of yourself in the process.
Oh man, that's a powerful message. And I'm already thinking about the times we're working with students, especially related to mentoring, related to mental health. And we can pull that clip just there selfishly to say, hey, listen to someone who's been through it and done it and is living his best life. So appreciate you, appreciate your message, appreciate your time today,
Yeah.
being so generous with just all that you've shared. I know we could talk forever. And man, there's a different version of our journeys that I think overlapped or intertwined more in high school. And just want to thank you for being someone that I admire, that our students can admire, and keep up the great work, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate the work you're doing. I was looking at the people you've interviewed and I was like, oh, there's some man, Saxons are doing some cool things out there in the world. So thanks for putting that out there and helping people connect and giving current students something to aspire to, people that they can reach out to. And if you've got my contact information. If you feel like my story or interaction with somebody personally one-on-one could do some good, then happy to be an advocate and a voice to anyone who needs it.
That does it for our conversation with Brian Pecor. Thanks so much to Brian for jumping on with us and sharing a bit about his story. Thanks as always to Matt Cox with Saucetown Properties. If you or anyone wants to check out the Saucetown Investor blog and podcast or follow along with South Grad Matt Cox, please tune into his Instagram feed or also check him out on LinkedIn. Thanks also to Dr. Corey Bickler at Bickler Dentistry, and as always, to the Saxon Success Fund. Hope you all have a great week. Go Saxons.